Let's start by taking a look at the day's headlines. Fears are rising that radioactive waste from Fukushima could have leaked into rivers in Japan after the country is slammed by a powerful typhoon. The storm leaves dozens dead and floods thousands of homes. Business sentiment among South Korea's manufacturers remains in the doldrums. They feel hamstrung by Japan's export curbs, sluggish domestic demand, and the US-China trade war. Plus, Pyongyang bound. South Korea's national football team is en route to the North Korean capital for the first time in nearly 30 years for a World Cup qualifying match. Unfortunately, for football fans, the match is very unlikely to be televised live. So, the most powerful typhoon to hit Japan in decades has left more than 30 people dead and 19 missing as Typhoon Hagibis moved in a northerly direction before exiting the island nation late Sunday. It left a trail of absolute devastation, destruction, including to the nuclear-stricken prefecture of Fukushima. Also alarming, bags containing waste materials generated during decontamination work of the nuclear power plant in that area has been found in the nearby river, and there's no word on how many bags have actually gone missing either. Our Lee Min-sun has our top story.
The season's 19th typhoon, Hagibis, slammed into Japan over the weekend, causing dozens of casualties and leaving many regions flooded. Hagibis also swept across Fukushima, home to the nuclear plant that melted down following the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. According to Japanese media, the city of Tamura in Fukushima Prefecture said Sunday that an unknown number of bags containing contaminated waste from the plant were lost. Officials say heavy rains carried the bags to the nearby Furumichi River. That river connects to another river and flows into the Pacific Ocean. The city retrieved 10 bags from the river, but they haven't been able to confirm how many went missing out of the more than 2,600 bags kept in a temporary storage. Each bag weighs between 700 kilograms and 1.3 tons. They contain grass and wood collected from areas that were heavily contaminated by radiation. City officials insist contaminated waste did not leak out of the bags, and they will carefully check the storage and management record. However, this isn't the first time something like this has happened. In 2015, contaminated waste from the Fukushima plant went missing in similar circumstances when the region was hit by torrential downpours. Lee Min-sun, Arirang News.
South Korea's Prime Minister plans to visit Japan next week in what would be the highest level trip since Japan imposed export curbs in the deepening trade and diplomatic row between the two countries. According to the Prime Minister's office on Sunday, Lee Na-kyun will be making a trip to Japan from October 22nd through the 24th to attend the enthronement ceremony of Japanese Emperor Naruhito. Government sources say they expect Lee to take part in a banquet hosted by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and hold separate talks with him, which would mark the highest level dialogue since this tension flared up last year. Prime Minister Lee is also likely to bring Abe a message from President Moon Jae-in. Now, responding to news of Prime Minister Lee's trip to Japan, South Korea's presidential office says only a complete reversal of Tokyo's trade curbs would resolve this very serious issue. An official at the top office told reporters on Sunday that it's still too soon to say whether the trip might restore trade relations between the two sides. The official, however, did say the Prime Minister's trip is meaningful in that it could upgrade and widen the level of discussions between the two sides. He is the highest ranking official to go to Japan since these trade curbs came in 3 months ago. President Moon Jae-in will hold a weekly meeting this afternoon with senior Blue House aides. According to an official at the top office, President Moon is expected to reiterate the importance of revitalizing the local economy to improve people's livelihoods. Now, President Moon really has been focusing on ways to move the economy forward in recent weeks. It was the key topic during last week's cabinet meeting. He also went on a trip to Chungcheongnam-do province where he welcomed Samsung Display's massive investment plan for the country's display industry. There's also attention on whether he will deliver a message on Seoul-Tokyo ties after Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon confirmed he's going to that enthronement ceremony of Japan's new emperor. Now to some very disappointing news for football fans here in Korea. Tuesday evening's highly anticipated World Cup qualifier between South and North Korea is unlikely to be televised live. However, the game is on and the South Korean squad is expected to arrive in Pyongyang later today for what will be the first inter-Korean game to take place in the regime's capital in nearly 3 decades. Lee Seung-jae has this report.
The South Korean national football team, who left for Beijing on Sunday, en route to Pyongyang, were greeted by football fans prior to their departure from Incheon International Airport. Korea Football Association officials, including KFA President Chung Mong-gyu, were also seen wearing the same jacket as the squad. On the chest, South Korea's national flag, the taegukgi. On the back, and in English, Korea Republic. According to the KFA, the outfit was designed especially for the match in Pyongyang to emphasize the nation. But for the players, winning the match is the only thing on their mind.
It will be difficult. Artificial turf isn't easy, but we'll cope and come back with a victory.
The match in Pyongyang will be a unique experience for the players. There will be no South Korean cheering squad. The teams will play on AstroTurf, and the South Korean players have to follow regulations related to the UN sanctions on the regime. They prohibit athletes from bringing mobile phones or tablet PCs into North Korea. While swapping jerseys at the end of the match is tradition in the sport, since South Korea's kit is made by an American sporting brand, this too will be forbidden. But some of the players welcome the restrictions.
We can't even have books. I think it's good. Players will have more time to talk, and we see it as a positive.
Despite the match being the first of its kind in 29 years, football fans will not be able to watch the match live. North Korea hasn't answered South Korea's calls to allow civilian spectators, journalists, and broadcasting crew into the North Korean capital for the match. Barring a dramatic last-minute development, the South Korean national team will likely compete in a hostile environment with tens of thousands of North Korean supporters in the stands, but no South Korean fans. With no live broadcast, fans in South Korea will have to follow the match via online commentary on the FIFA or Asian Football Confederation websites. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korean manufacturers have a gloomy outlook for the fourth quarter due to growing global uncertainties, according to a survey of 2,000 local firms released by the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry on Monday. Business sentiment fell 1 point from the previous quarter to 72 for the October to December period. A reading below 100 means pessimists outnumber optimists. The Chamber says exports have remained weak for 10 months in a row, while listed companies saw their operating profits decline 37% in the first half of the year. It mainly attributed the weaker trend to the US-China trade spat, Japan's export curbs, and fluctuating prices of raw materials. South Korea's Finance Minister Hong Nam-ki says the government will help support exports by establishing a digital trade support platform. At an economy-related ministers' meeting on Monday, Hong said the blockchain-based digital platform will help integrate export information and provide customized marketing support programs. He said this will help reduce companies' export-related costs in customs and logistics. The finance minister added that the government will ease 33 regulations that hinder innovation in new industries and new technologies. South Korea has confirmed that African swine fever was found in the dead bodies of 2 more wild boars that were spotted last weekend near the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. The highly contagious animal disease doesn't affect humans, fortunately, but it is fatal to pigs. Yoon Jung-min reports.
Quarantine authorities have found African swine fever in the bodies of 2 more wild boars found Saturday near the border with North Korea. According to the Environment Ministry, they were found in Cheollon County, Gangwon-do Province. So far, the virus has been found in 5 wild boars. The government said it's unlikely that the boars themselves came from North Korea, but it's possible that the virus came from the north indirectly, adding to concerns over its spread in the wild. The Environment Ministry has been carrying out regular checkups on wild boars since African swine fever broke out in China late last year. The Agriculture Ministry announced on Sunday that it will allow the shooting and capture of wild boars in those regions to stop the virus from spreading. At South Korean farms, there have been 14 cases of the disease since last month, also mostly near the border with North Korea. The government has bought up pigs from those farms or killed the pigs to prevent the disease from spreading to other regions. So far, nearly 150,000 pigs nationwide have been culled. The authorities have been investigating while temporarily prohibiting people and vehicles from moving in and out of those regions. African swine fever is not a threat to humans, but it is highly contagious and fatal to swine herds. Despite efforts to contain the disease, it has shown little sign of abating. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea and China have agreed to resume joint patrols to crack down on illegal fishing. South Korea's Fisheries Ministry says patrol boats from the 2 countries will scour the joint fishing zone in the West Sea from Monday today through Sunday. Only authorized fishing boats from the 2 countries are allowed to fish in this particular zone. The 2 sides will share the results of their patrols with the other side. Over 30 illegal Chinese fishing boats have been caught by the 2 sides since the joint patrol started in 2014. However, South Korea alone has seized 92 illegal Chinese fishing boats so far this year. Chinese President Xi Jinping has issued a strong warning, making it crystal clear that any attempt to divide China will be crushed. His ominous remarks came on Sunday as Beijing continues to struggle to get any kind of grip on these pro-democracy protests we've been seeing in Hong Kong. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's connect to our Kim Dami. So Dami, tell us more about what the Chinese leader had to say.
Mark, President Xi warned that anyone attempting to split China in any part of the country will end up with crushed bodies and shattered bones. His threatening remarks came on Sunday while speaking to Nepal's Prime Minister. According to China's state-run broadcaster CCTV, the Chinese leader added, any external forces that attempt to divide China will be deemed pipe dreamers by the Chinese people. His message was not only directed toward the 60-year-long Tibetan independence movement, but to demonstrators in Hong Kong as well. Nonetheless, pro-democracy movements continued in Hong Kong over the weekend, with activists staging a cat-and-mouse game with riot police and guerrilla-style rallies to distract them. Protesters vandalized shops that have spoken up against the pro-democracy movement, and police again made several arrests. Protesters also hoisted a large statue, what they call Lady Liberty, on the peak of the city's famous Lion Rock. The statue depicts a female protester with a gas mask, goggles, and an umbrella in her hand, representing all Hong Kong protesters demanding greater freedom. In fact, U.S. President Donald Trump's rather unsupportive stance on Hong Kong has aggravated the demonstrators. Meeting with China's vice premier at the White House last Friday, President Trump said the protests in Hong Kong were winding down due to the great progress being made by China. With U.S. President Donald Trump scraping his planned tariff increases on Chinese goods and calling a truce to their trade war, the Wall Street Journal says it was China that emerged victorious from last week's trade talks in Washington. According to the paper, the truce opens an opportunity for China to avoid concessions it doesn't want to make, forcing President Trump's hand with his re-election bid looming. China also hasn't confirmed whether it'll buy up to $50 billion of U.S. farm products as announced by Trump. President Trump on Saturday called the latest deal by far the greatest and biggest deal ever made for American farmers. The Trump administration is withdrawing up to 1,000 American troops from northern Syria as Turkish forces push further south into Syria. This is according to U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper on Sunday. Esper said deliberate withdrawal only applies to a northern part of Syria, but he wouldn't elaborate on how long the troops will be out of the region. The decision is likely to provoke criticism that the additional withdrawal betrays the Kurds and could possibly lead to a resurgence of ISIS. Looking to keep Turkey in line, U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin warned over the weekend that the U.S. can inflict severe economic pressure on Turkey if it is forced to.
Right, it's that time in the newscast for our Life and Info segment. This is where we focus on information that we do hope will be useful for your everyday life. And we're going to start with some good news for commuters here in South Korea. A 72-hour strike by the country's railway workers that started last Friday ended this morning at 9 a.m. Korea time, just over 1 hour ago now. The Korea Railway Corporation's labour union staged the strike to demand higher pay and better working conditions after their negotiations with KORail collapsed in August. During the strike, only about 60 to 80% of total trains were operating, but now operations are fortunately back to almost full capacity. However, as the railway workers' demands have yet to be met, the labour union is warning of another much longer strike in November. Meanwhile, workers on Seoul's subway lines 1 through 8 will hold a legal protest for 3 days starting at midnight Wednesday. Subway workers held their first protest last week demanding safer working conditions. In just 3 years from now, everyone in Seoul will be able to use free public Wi-Fi anywhere they go in the capital. Seoul's local government announced plans just last week to establish a broadband network covering the entire city. Che Jung-yoon tells us more.
9 out of 10 Koreans use smartphones. But at the same time, Koreans pay comparatively a large amount of money to use the internet on their mobile phones. Recent reports show that 1 gigabyte of data costs around $15 in Korea, which is the most expensive price tag among countries with high smartphone penetration rate. This costly mobile price has created digital inequality among Koreans, leading to so-called Wi-Fi refugees who move around places to find Wi-Fi.
Data is always not enough. I sometimes pay extra for overusing data. So when I'm out, I only use my smartphone where Wi-Fi is provided.
Free public Wi-Fi now is concentrated in subways, buses, and main streets. To expand the range of public Wi-Fi, Seoul has announced its plan to build a data-free city, establishing more than 4,000 kilometers of municipal broadband networks.
Currently, Seoul's network covers 30% of the city and is mostly limited to administration business uses. We plan to install more than 16,000 public Wi-Fi application processors around the city by 2022, extending the coverage area to 100%.
The administration says the 12 million foreigners who visit Seoul every year will also benefit from the plan, as everyone can access the free Wi-Fi.
Because you can save a lot of money, and otherwise you have to pay your provider, and it's very expensive if you are out of your country if you use your cell phone.
The Kenyan government does not provide free Wi-Fi to tourists, so most of the time tourists, or even if they are there for short visit, are forced to register a SIM card so that they are able to have internet on their phones.
This marks a first for any city in the world, building a municipal broadband network that covers its entire metropolitan area. Once complete, citizens and tourists alike will have access to free public Wi-Fi, even in some small back streets like this.
Seoul expects this project to save around $40 per user, leading to around $30 billion of total benefits. Choi Jung-yoon, Arirang News.
Now, with the country's population aging rapidly, the number of senior citizens suffering from various types of dementia is on the rise here in South Korea. However, in a potential breakthrough, local researchers have found that mature silkworms could be used to help prevent and treat Alzheimer's disease. Park Se-young with this report.
A fully grown silkworm is rich in proteins, amino acids, omega-3 fatty acids, and other things that your body needs. Korean researchers made powder using freeze-dried mature silkworms and gave it to mice with Alzheimer's DNA. In the mice that were treated with the powder, the Alzheimer's disease didn't worsen. They had much better spatial memory and postural control. The mice were also more curious, less aggressive, and got along better with other mice.
In mice with Alzheimer's disease, we found that the treatment improved memory and increased sociability and curiosity for new things.
The researchers say eating about 3 to 5 grams of silkworm powder a day can help prevent healthy people from getting Alzheimer's disease.
The demand for mature silkworm is expected to rise with its confirmed effects for Alzheimer's prevention. We will do our best to expand the number of farms with production techniques.
In 2018, about 10% of people aged 65 and over were diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in Korea. The study is expected to draw lots of attention amid the need for new ways to prevent and treat Alzheimer's. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Good morning. Chillier air moved in from the north overnight, and readings will remain on the cool side all day today, only rising to the teens here in the capital and its surrounding regions. And it's going to be even chillier tomorrow morning, so be sure to dress accordingly. Meanwhile, the East Coast is forecast to receive 5 to 40 millimeters of showers from this afternoon through tomorrow due to easterly winds, while mountainous regions in Gangwon-do province could see the season's first snow. The rest of the nation will enjoy abundant sunshine, though. Upper regions will be a lot breezier than yesterday, while southern regions, including Daegu, will have highs in the 20s. It's already mid-October, and temperatures will gradually drop this week. Another very chilly morning on tap on Wednesday, but skies will stay fairly sunny for the rest of the week. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's where we're going to leave the news and weather for now on this Monday morning here in Seoul. We hope your work week is off to a good start. Stay tuned to Arirang TV and my daily reminder that we have our next newscast coming up at noon Korea time in around an hour and a half from now. So until then, goodbye.
What's going on around the world? Arirang's news program, The Point, covers relevant issues that are shaping the world from major